All right, let's get this party started. So we're going to talk about investing in Baltimore. I'm Gregory Bennett. I think most of you guys know me. I see a lot of familiar names on here. This is going to be very interactive. So if you guys have questions, um, you can unmute. No, let's put the hand up. I think I saw the Gabby. Did I see her? Yeah, I think Gabby's here. No, no,
Yeah, I'm here.
we better put our hands up because Gabby is here. No, Gabby, you can ask as many questions as you want, okay?
All right, bet.
Gabby, you're my favorite, okay?
Oh, thanks.
Um, and so the reason why I chose to do a webinar in Baltimore is because I initially was very reluctant to invest in Baltimore. As I said earlier, I'm more of a DC, Prince George's County investor and have been investing for now over 30 years. And I've had colleagues all along the way saying you need to invest in Baltimore. And I really never took them up on that. Back in the early 2000s, a colleague of mine, Thurman Battle, him and I bought six properties at the tax auction in Baltimore, and we just boarded them up and sat on them. And then that was probably around year 2000. And then around 2005, 2006, when the market got extremely hot, we said we could just clean these up and just put them back on the market. And that's what we did. And so we made money on those six properties. And then I hadn't touched Baltimore really since then. And then my colleague, Marquise, was saying, man, you need to come down here. I've got these 20 properties. They're all paid for. I'm doing good in Baltimore. So I took a look at Baltimore in 2018. And one Saturday, I went down there, I pulled some properties. He told me to go to 21213, which was Bel Air Edison. That's where he started investing. And so I went to Hubzu, one of the auction sites, and I found this property on Lake Avenue. And long story short, I bid on that property and won. And so I was able to get that property for 40,000. Bought another property. I just started buying properties in 2018, 2017, 2018. Bought two units. Just started buying properties there and renting them out. And what I found was, which I didn't know at the time, that Baltimore is the number one residential rental area in the United States because you can buy low and sell high. Now, back then, you could buy properties in what I would consider, so we categorize neighborhoods A through D. A being the best neighborhoods. I think Tony mentioned he may have mentioned Fells Point, Canton. Those areas are what I would consider A neighborhoods. Sort of B would be like Patterson Park. I'll talk about Patterson Park. And I've got Alex on here with me. So Alex, if I go wrong, you correct me. And then like Bel Air Edison, I would say was a C neighborhood. Your D neighborhoods or are neighborhoods that are, I would just say, challenge neighborhoods. You see a lot of board ups, um, and we saw a lot of them back then. And so I just started investing there, also investing in DC, and I started building wealth. And so fast forward to 2025, I have all those properties that I bought then. I've bought properties all along the way, and most of my properties I'll say have more than tripled in value. They've more than tripled in value. Um, a lot of them are already paid off. The cash flow is incredible. I rent all of my properties through, they all have voucher holders. So Section 8, I rent all my properties there. There's a waiting list in Baltimore, you guys, of 5 years to be on to be on the Section 8 list. So it's just a great area for rental properties. I consider it a rental area. And so I just wanted to show you guys, give you a taste in this hour of what I've seen in Baltimore with maybe the hopes of that you would at least consider it. So why Baltimore? Affordable property pricing. And depending on the area, now you can buy in Baltimore, and we'll talk about pricing. When I start talking about auctions, there are some auctions that the city is giving properties away at as low as they've got a program as low as $3,000 now. But in Baltimore, so where I was buying in Bel Air Edison 21213 for 40,000, now you're buying in there for about 170, 180,000. And with ARVs after repair values into the 200s, there on the east side. And so it's very affordable to live. Like I said, the history of Baltimore, and Alex, correct me if I'm wrong on this, was the decline started in around 1970, 1980, where when the ports dried up and a lot of industry went away, when the automobile industry went overseas, it really affected Baltimore. It affected Baltimore in a way that a lot of people lost their jobs. They turned to drugs like heroin. And that was really honestly the cause of the decline. You have any comments on that, Alex?
Yeah, that was a hi, Greg, and hello, everyone, and thank you for this opportunity, Greg. Absolutely. I mean, it dried up so much of the funding that was taking place. Also, Bethlehem Steel was a major contributor to the United States for steel for years. But as it kept getting shipped out to other countries and other places, all of that led to so much decline within the city.
And so because of that, property values just went all the way down. They plummeted. And for many years, we thought, things would get better, and they really hadn't. And I'll say around probably the mid 2000s, 2005, 2006 is what I always call the real estate heyday. Things got a lot better. And I think that things slowly but surely have gotten better in Baltimore. And so we're starting to see, to our amazement, to be honest with you, appreciation. And so we're getting appreciation on properties. I see people moving back into Baltimore. I actually set up a real estate brokerage in Owens Mills, a suburb, a couple years ago. Because I sort of started to see the boom, and I was recruiting a lot of real estate agents selling in the suburbs and in the city. So there's a strong rental demand. Over 50% of the people in Baltimore actually rent. Over 50% rent. And so it's this strong rental market, whether it's voucher holders or market rate tenants. It's a strong rental market there. There's a citywide revitalization that's always going on. Every new mayor there has a program, and there's a number of different programs. Now, you want to speak to that just a little bit, Alex? Alex is part of one of the neighborhood CDCs.
Yeah, so actually there is. So the church I pastored and been at my entire life is in Harlem Park in particular. But I've been born and raised in Glen Burnie, which is right outside of Baltimore. Did an undergrad at UB, worked down in Harbor Point for about 13 years. I was a Lyft, Uber, and order up driver in the city. A lot of insight to Baltimore, and being vice president of a neighborhood council there. It also gives me additional insight into the types of development that are taking place. And so the city, in their efforts to really jumpstart and put a dent in the vacant housing stock, has multiple programs. So one of them certainly is the dollar program, which is called fixed pricing. And that's primarily for individuals who are going to live in the house. But for profits and not for profit developers, as Greg said, they have a whole inventory of the houses that the city owns. It's a little misnomer, but it's true. The city doesn't own all the vacants. People seem to think that city government is responsible and owns all the vacant houses. They don't. They own a very small percentage. But what they're doing is they're doing their part. They have a program, as Greg mentioned, you meet certain requirements, and for $3,000, you're able to obtain these properties. They are also auctioning them off through a nonprofit called One House at a Time. So there's a number of different ways that you can acquire vacant lots, even vacant properties within Baltimore City.
And so Alex mentioned One House at a Time. I want to bring this up. So this is the program that he just mentioned. And they have an auction, a big auction every other month. And the next one is April the 8th. You have to be registered by April the 1st, which is this coming Tuesday, to bid. And there's a number of properties that you can get for, on average, this will be my first time going here. I don't know if either you or Cammie can speak to, like, what are these houses going for? Do you have any idea, Alex?
Yeah, these are in the $2,000 and $3,000 range, and some of them are even less. But again, it all depends on the level of deterioration that they have. But keep in mind, folks, I mean, again, to start at that level, that's what developers do. They start at that level or lower so that they can actually earn a profit on rehabbing these houses to the hilt and making them really nice and available for consumers and people who need housing.
And what the strategy would be, he mentioned 2 or 3,000. I think the minimum bid actually, Alex, is 5,000. I think I read something is 5,000. But what the strategy would be is to take a property like this one, try to get it for around 5,000, 10,000, but in an area where the ARVs, the after repair values, are 200,000 and 300,000. With the hope of renovating these properties, 150, depending on the size, 150,000 maybe, and trying to buy other properties that could be on the block that need renovations. There may be other houses that are boarded up just like this one. There's contractors, we have contractors that can renovate these properties. And we also can help with some financing as well. But that would be the strategy. I know Tony mentioned buying in Baltimore to retire. Tony, this would be a great idea to pick one of these houses and buy them at an auction like this, and then just take your time renovating the property if you were in a position to do that. And so they do a big auction at One House at a Time. AJ Billig is the auctioneer. It's at a hotel. Let me try to put the I'll put the link in the I'll put the link if I can.
Can I ask, why are there so many of them? It's just because of what you described as the industry moving out over the years and stuff?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. That's what kind of made Baltimore the way it is. I
yeah.
mean, a lot of the neighborhoods are blighted,
Yeah.
but they're coming back.
Yeah.
And
So, Greg, I did call AJ Billig, I think it was yesterday afternoon. And the gentleman who's one of the two who goes along the side in the room, checking to see who's raising their hands bidding, his name is Chuck. He did tell me that actually each property is 3,000. Not 5, but 3,000.
okay. Okay.
And of
Well,
course, he did
I
say that 10% of the property one would be required in the form of a personal check at minimum.
No, I think what he probably meant was the bid amount is 3,000. So you're right. The bid amount. So you've got to bring a cashier's check. So you bring up a good point. You do have to bring a cashier's check for 3,000. That's for every property, but it's an auction. So we're bidding. So if me and Alex are bidding on a property, he may bid 10,000, 5,000, I may bid 10,000. And so I could win at 10,000, but my deposit is just 3,000 for every property. But honestly, it's actually either 3,000 or 10% of the bid, whichever is higher. And so if I bid, say, 30,000 on a property, it's a real nice property. It's in a real good location. I bid 30,000. I do have to give the 3,000. Well, let me say 40,000. Let's say it's 40,000. Then my total deposit is actually 4,000. I've got to bring another 1,000. I think within 24 hours, I got to bring another 1,000. But each property, to your point, each property, the deposit that you've got to bring to the auction is 3,000. You're right with that. So you guys, so this is an opportunity. And so while we're here, let me just show you some other opportunities. This is Ashland Auctions. We buy properties. I've bought properties off of Ashland Auctions in Baltimore. So auctions are a way to buy properties. When we talk about how do we find properties, how do we find these opportunities, auctions are one way. So AJ Billig is one, Ashland Auctions, and I put up here Hubzu. And one of the reasons why I love all of these auctions, Hubzu, Ashland Auctions, and some of AJ Billig's, is you can actually get on the inside of these properties before you bid. And so like the first property that I bought in Baltimore, I had a combination to a lockbox. So I was able to see the inside. So I was able to estimate what the repair cost was. And I ran my formula, the Mayo formula, to determine what to bid. And so on Hubzu, I was able to bid. My limit was 40,000. It got bidded up to 40,000. I stopped, and through the grace of God, the auction stopped, and I won that house. And I only had to put in about maybe $20,000 to renovate that property and then rent it out. And so if you were to ask me, what are some of the best ways to find these properties? I would tell you that, and if you're taking notes, write this down. I would say auctions. Auctions are plentiful. Auctions are every single day, different types of auctions in Baltimore. And I follow all of them. I have certain areas that I follow, and I'm looking at the auctions. I've had some coaching students that have built portfolios on just going to the auctions. And one girl in particular that I'm thinking of, she's got a certain area and a certain zip code, and all she does is just follow 3 or 4 of the auction sites. And whenever there's an auction that's in her targeted area, she's going to either going to that auction or bidding online. So auctions are a great way to find properties in Baltimore. Direct mail is as well. So you can target an area. So for example, we did an exercise last night where we targeted Harlem Park. And so this is actually a list of all the houses in Harlem Park, Edmondson Avenue, Bennett Place, named after Gregory, Franklin Street, Edmondson Avenue. I was joking by that.
Were you trying to be funny? Because you know that wasn't funny. And you know I know better than that. I've been there my whole life.
Anyway.
This is how we do, folks. It's no disrespect intended. We just have fun like this.
So
Anyway.
question, so all the houses aren't blighted then? Some of these are just maybe foreclosures or
Well, this list right here is just everything there.
oh, okay.
Some of these houses are homeowners that live in there, been
Yeah.
living here. Some of these, like here's two brothers' property. So that's probably an investor that bought this house,
Oh, okay.
might be renting them out. So I just pulled a list of all of Harlem Park with the idea of myself and getting my team to send direct mail pieces to this list. We buy houses in Harlem Park, to cold call this list. So I'm going to send this list. I may have done, I think I did it already, sent this list to a skip tracing company to give me all the phone numbers, because this particular list doesn't have phone numbers. And so I can just easily send this to reiskip.com, propwire.com is a free site to pull a similar list, but then you can skip trace as well to get phone numbers. PropStream, and there's many other skip tracing companies that you can send a list like this to get phone numbers. Then with the phone numbers, you can call them. And so, Keith, you might remember we had some VAs. We hired some VAs a few years ago, virtual assistants out of the Philippines, and we gave them a similar list, but we actually pulled a list of Baltimore, may have been out-of-state absentee owners, and they called that list. They were able to get a homeowner on Harlem Avenue, actually, in Harlem Park. And I was able to negotiate with that homeowner through one of our VA calls. I was able to negotiate and bought the house for $8,000. I just cleaned it up. I hired a trash out company, paid them $1,500 at that time to clean it out. And then I, as the owner now, gave that property to Ashland Auctions, actually. And they auctioned it off for maybe like 30,000. So that's an option as well. And so direct mail works, cold calling works, following the auctions work. All of these things work well in terms of marketing. And so as investors, that's what we have to do. I would choose an area, choose a targeted area. And so I'm speaking in general now, whether it's Baltimore or DC, somewhere in Prince George's County, you pick a targeted area and you focus on it. You could even go driving for dollars in that area. I took a drive through since I was in Baltimore. I took a drive through Harlem Park just to see what's going on, to get familiar with the streets. So there's citywide revitalization, so investor friendly. There's what's called opportunity zones in Baltimore. And so what that means is that some areas of Baltimore are deemed opportunity zones. So if you buy a property there, as long as you hold on to that property for 10 years, it's a little more to it than this, but as long as you hold on to it for 10 years, when you go to sell that property, you don't have to pay any capital gain taxes on it if it's in an opportunity zone. Deidre, can you unmute yourself? I think you have a question in the chat.
Yes, I do. Hi.
Hi, Deidre. Go ahead and ask your question.
So I found a house when I wanted to be investment properties. I really like the house, but I keep being hesitant because it's so many abandoned houses around it. And I'm leery. Like I don't know if that's a good thing. I mean, based on what you're saying tonight, it gave me a lot of insight, but I don't plan on selling it anytime soon. I want to rent it out and like you said, hold it. But I don't know Baltimore that well, so the sight of all those abandoned homes kind of freaked me out.
So on the street itself, how many abandoned homes?
On the street itself, it's about 3.
Oh, okay. Okay. So you're not including the one you want to buy, right?
No, one right next door to me is abandoned. Um it's a school across the street that's open. It's an elementary school. The street's a nice street. That's why I'm kind of attracted. But on the next corner, it's a lot of abandoned homes and stores. On the next corner, the same thing. It's like very few people live in those houses all around the surrounding area.
So I think that you have options, and I don't blame you for being leery. But I think that if you can get that property for a really good price, the way I look at it is if there's 3 on your block, what I would do is try to get a hold of those homeowners and see if they are interested in selling those. That's what
Yeah,
that's what I would do. Now,
yeah,
whether you buy those or not, you could always wholesale those properties.
right, right.
Because if I know that you're buying that one house that you're buying, and 1 or 2 of the other properties are willing to sell, and I know if I come in and by buying 1 of those properties or 2 of those properties at a discount, I can improve that street. I can have a property at a discount that's probably going to cash flow close somewhere, I'm sure, between $500 and $1,000 a month. And then you just keep trying to buy up the area, which is easier said than done. And you can't do it by yourself, but you know, if you're able to get those and have conversations with the owners, then one house at a time, hence the name, you can improve the area.
Oh, good.
But
That's a good concept.
but I don't blame you for being a little nervous. It is a little risky. And some of the areas are a little more blighted than others. But so what I think is that and we'll get Alex's opinion. What I think is you just take a look around, because every time I go to Baltimore, and I'm starting to go a lot, I see a lot of contractors, a lot of revitalization everywhere. And
Mhm.
so as long as you see that in your area, um, I think you're fine. What do you say, Alex?
Yeah, Greg, the strategy you just mentioned is excellent. I would also say as well that that particular section, like that zip code, that's a larger area. And where you might see blight and challenges in one section, you don't have it in another portion of that same zip. If I think about that 21213, there's a southern portion of that that's closer to Hopkins, right? And there's a
Yeah,
lot of revitalization, right? There's a
this
lot of
is like a
revitalization.
mile and a half from John Hopkins.
But yeah, okay, and also as you move closer to Hopkins, you see less of that. So if it's a fear of yours,
Okay.
you can stay in the zip code, but as you move closer to the areas that are having the revitalization, then that kind of dwindles that concern. The Department of Housing does the same thing. What they do is they will push development around developed areas in a zip code. And the expectation and what happens is it just keeps on growing, growing, growing. Plus, another thing, Greg's school community, SKOOL, is free. So you mentioned, hey, I'm Deidre looking for certain properties in a not so blighted area of 21213. Somebody help. Somebody like me is going to see that, who's in Baltimore every day, knows the areas, and will say, hey, why don't you try this block, this street? And by the way, I'll send you some photos and videos of houses. And I've done it for people in the group. So there's different ways to work around that, in addition to what Greg suggested.
And that zip code is where I started, where many of us started that same zip code. I don't know where in that zip code you are, but like off of Bel Air Avenue is where I got started and bought that first property for 40,000. So it's a good area. They are doing a lot of renovating. I don't know what kind of deal you're getting. I'm assuming that you're getting a really good deal that you probably couldn't get anywhere else. And
Well, that's
and
another thing. I'm not sure if it's a good deal. It's market price, but it's totally renovated.
okay. So that's definitely something to consider. And if you want to contact me offline to get my opinion on whether or not it's a good deal, I'd be happy to help you on that.
Appreciate that so much.
Greg, I had a question for you.
Go ahead, Mike.
I just want to know, when did you start changing your philosophy when it came to Baltimore? Because a few years back, you used to always tell us, don't buy if you see board ups on the block. You used to preach it. Don't buy where the board ups are. But now you've sort of changed that whole philosophy. Is it just because of lack of opportunity somewhere, or what is it?
No, I wouldn't say that. It's just that I see a lot of revitalization going on. I mean, things, as time goes on, things change. Just like technology improves, we're using a lot of AI now. What I see in Baltimore, and just drive through, and you've been there a lot lately. Everywhere we go, every street that we go on, there's contractors everywhere. So what does that tell you? And so sometimes you've got to change your mindset. You've got to change your strategy. What I don't want to happen is, I just don't want to be caught behind the 8 ball. I don't want to go into these neighborhoods once they've already been revitalized, and now I'm paying top dollar where I could have been a trailblazer and bought when things were extremely low.
Ahead of the curve, basically.
And yeah, I'm trying to be ahead of the curve. And there's lots of examples, and I've talked to you guys about it all across the country, really. I remember just here where, honestly, I'll give you an example of Southeast DC. Now, you remember Southeast DC back in the 70s and 80s. Nobody wanted to go there. Where I remember when a 4-unit building was off of Martin Luther King was $50,000.
Greg, I can remember in the 90s. I can remember in the 90s in Southeast where I would go on a block and it'd be 4 or 5 like Long and Foster signs throughout the block. Everybody was selling.
Yeah, but those same ones that were selling for 50,000, you could get a HUD foreclosure 4-unit for 50,000. Then I remember a few years later it went to 90,000. Now you can't get one for under 600,000 now in Southeast. So it's the same thing. And so you've got gentrification coming. I'm there, and I'll let Alex speak about the rail. I talked about it a little earlier. The MARC train is coming up and through West Baltimore. You see things changing. And so do you want to sit idly by and just watch it happen? Or do you want to be a part of it, and you want to be ahead of the curve, where in some of those neighborhoods already they're getting appraisals for 400 and 500,000, and you're sometimes buying for 3,000. You're buying for 3,000. You're buying for 20,000, and so there's appraisals and comps on the MLS for much higher. So that was the mindset shift. And so I've seen it, like nobody wanted to live in Brooklyn, New York many years ago. And then now everybody wants to live in Brooklyn. Everybody wanted to live in Manhattan. Now it's Brooklyn. Now Brooklyn is over $1 million. You can't get in there. So it's the same philosophy, same strategy. All right. The opportunity in vacant properties. There's a lot of vacant properties. When I did the research, it said 15,000. I don't know if I'm a little high or low on that. To Alex's point, they're not all there. A lot of those vacant homes are owned by homeowners, believe it or not. We looked at one yesterday that was owned by a homeowner, boarded up. Homeowner lives in California. Homeowners just really waiting for a contractor to give them the right price so that they can renovate. And so we went out there with a contractor to get a quote on one of the properties, and these were one of the big ones, one of the 4-level properties. So they're all not owned by the city. Many are in prime locations. You just have to drive around. And so you can acquire these properties at very low prices. We're looking to acquire in some of the neighborhood programs for as low as $3,000. Some of the lots they sell for $1,000. And then just put together a whole team, know how to get them financed. We have contractors, the whole bit, and start building almost, as a developer, but with just a huge inventory of houses. So we can acquire them, fix and flip. I still think it's great for buying and holding. A lot of investors are buying the big row houses. A lot of them are zoned for 2 units, and they're renting them out, and they're renovating them for 2 units. All that we do as investors with wholesale, fix and flip, buy and hold, can be done in Baltimore. So one example is, I had some wholesalers. I've had a number of wholesalers wholesale me properties in Baltimore. One in particular, my property on Evesham. What area is that called, Alex? I know it's off of Northern Parkway. I always forget the name of the
That's
area.
Chinquapin Park.
And so my coaching students have actually seen the properties. It's pristine. It's a really great area. I bought the property for $90,000. I think I paid $80,000 for it and paid the wholesaler $10,000. I renovated the property, needed a light renovation, made a legal bedroom in the basement with an egress window, full bath in the basement, house 4 bedrooms, 2 bath. All in, I was probably at maybe 110. The house right across the street sold maybe 30 days ago for I think 263, something like that, directly across the street. And so that property is it's just a great property for me, that I was able to get through a wholesaler. And so the question is, can you wholesale in Baltimore? And the answer is yes. And then some of the best ways to wholesale, or at least find wholesale deals in Baltimore, is what I just talked about, is picking an area and getting a list similar to the list I just showed you guys, and then having probably like a 3-prong approach to that list. It's calling that list. Either you call or have a virtual assistant call. It's sending postcards to that list. We buy houses in your area. It's doing SMS, text message marketing. If you can get email addresses, send emails. It's all of those things to get deals. And this is what the wholesaler was doing in that area. They were just calling a list. And so they called the list, got this homeowner, was an out-of-state homeowner, and put them under contract, and I bought the property. And so we buy lots of properties through wholesaling. Fix and flip. I remember I bought a property on Guilford Avenue, real close to, what's that, North Avenue? Yeah, North Avenue. Really at the beginning of Charles Village in 21218. And I bought that property, renovated the property. Wasn't sure whether I was going to hold it or flip it, and I was happy to do either one. And I put it was right behind the Baltimore school board, right behind the school board. And I put the property on the market for sale and for rent, and the sale came real, quickly, which probably told me I should have held on to that property. But I have flipped a number of properties in Baltimore. I have flipped a lot of properties in Baltimore County, Essex, Gwynn Park, and in a few other areas in the county. And so the ARVs are there, especially in the county, in Baltimore County. The after repair values are there. In the county, the renovation costs aren't as high as some of the rundown houses in Baltimore, where we're doing full gut jobs. but we're buying them low enough to be able to justify the prices. And so you can flip. If you want to flip in Baltimore, you can flip. Ideal for buying and holding, for cash flow, appreciation. Somebody mentioned the Burr method, buying the property right, then renting the property, rehabbing the property, renting the property, and then refinancing. So using the financials of the property, once you rent the property, to do what we call a DSCR loan. And a lender's going to use the financials on that property. They're not necessarily going to look at you qualifying. They're looking at the property. And they're looking at what the cash flow is compared to what the monthly payment is. And if the monthly payment is somewhere around 70 or 80% of what the rents are, you can refinance out and not have to bring any money to the table. And then we're acquiring most of these properties through either using lines of credit, hard money, creative financing strategies, those kind of things. And of course, with the buying and holding, there's all kinds of tax benefits. You can buy, depending on what your goal is, you can buy enough properties to hold where, let's say that your cash flow goal is $20,000 a month for the rest of your life. And then you just primarily do the math. And if you buy the property right, pay it down, pay it off, a property in Baltimore where you could probably be all in at around, let's just say 200,000, maybe 250. That cash flows. If you buy that property right, try to pay it off early. Those properties, some of those properties are renting for 1,800, 2,000, maybe a little more than that. But if your goal is $20,000 a month, then you just do the math. You need not just, but you need 10 of those. Or if you're buying multifamily and buying 2 units, then you need half of that. You need about 5 2 units, and so on and so forth. So you just kind of do the math. Alex, I don't know if you're willing to share what your goals are, but if you are, or at least a little bit of your goals, why don't you share with us? We're all family.
Yeah, but Greg, you're the mastermind. They don't want to hear my goals.
Oh,
I'll
no,
tell
they
you.
want-
I'll tell you what my goals are, folks. So I currently have one rental property in Parkville, Maryland, and I've had it since 2021. In order to get there, it took 6 months, 72 housing tours, and 10 contracts. That house that I have now was the 71st house that I looked at, and the 10th contract, and that was in 6 months' time. My goal is to have 99 doors over the next 8 to 9 years. So what I'm finding is that the path to that might not be so linear, right? It might require doing some flips first, might require some auctions first, and then I can finally get to the multifamilies. But my passion and my interest is multi-unit properties, 2 to 4 doors in a property. And that's my goal, 99 more doors over the next 8 to 9 years, which is doable, believe it or not.
And do you have a certain targeted area that you want to do that in?
Yeah, so my targeted area is definitely Baltimore City. I'm certainly not opposed to Baltimore County. As I mentioned, I have a unit in Parkville, and I do like Anne Arundel, Northern Anne Arundel, and also Harford County as well. Matter of fact, Greg, very soon after being in his program, drove all the way to Harford County from Greenbelt. He thought it was in Delaware. It's not in Delaware, it's in Aberdeen.
It's
And looked at
Delaware.
It is not close to Delaware, and looked at a property that was actually 4 units with me. And Greg, after 290 days on the market, they just went pending. Isn't that interesting?
Wow.
But nonetheless, it was incredible. So my buy box area is primarily Baltimore City. There's an opportunity to do some rehabs, as Greg mentioned, in the same block where my church is in Harlem Park. And after I've done that, then I want to spread out to other parts of Baltimore City, 21218 in particular, and also into Baltimore County as well.
Good job. Good job. You'll get there. All right, let's talk neighborhoods. There's a lot of neighborhoods in Baltimore City. I just put a small handful of some up and coming neighborhoods. I do think that if you guys are taking notes, Upton is up and coming. I've always loved Upton. Harlem Park, of which Alex just mentioned, is really, really up and coming. Harlem Park covers 2 zip codes, 21223. Oh, I have it on the next slide, and 212117. So Harlem Park is great, but Park Heights is coming, is up and coming. I put Patterson Park as up and coming, but it's always been there, to be honest. Reservoir Hill, Bolton Hill have always been great. Great town. Great. Let's see. Any others that you want to mention, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think you have, did you have 21218? Yes, absolutely. I think you do, probably in one of your other slides. Those are up and coming areas. Cherry Hill, and I want to absolutely second Cherry Hill because it just shouldn't be forgotten. It's an enclave, right? Right there in South Baltimore. Also, I would say, you know, Irvington, Southwest Baltimore, those West Side communities. Greg found a great house that was actually a hoarder house. That he ended up getting a seriously good deal on, but that's West Baltimore, and a lot of people kind of shun Edmondson Village and those other areas, Midtown Edmondson and those areas, but they are very well established, up and coming, even more up and coming development wise areas that are more on the fringe, right? The closer you get on the fringe, you're going to the county areas. So the housing stock improves as you do that.
Are you familiar with Yale Heights?
Yep, Yale Heights is down there as well. Yale Heights is down in that Southwest Baltimore area. Beachfield, all of that is closer to Arbutus. Yep,
Right,
but it's still in the city. Yep.
Yeah. So I've been to Yale Heights, Beachfield, and I thought I was in the county, but they said
Mhm.
Baltimore City.
It's city. Yep.
It's
That's
way
city.
up at Emerson Avenue.
That's right.
It's close to one of my favorite restaurants in Canton. No, Catonsville.
Catonsville Gourmet. Yeah.
Valerie, you can't go to Catonsville Gourmet.
No more crab cakes for you, Mr. Bennett.
I had a question about that Cherry Hill is by the water. It said waterfront.
Yes.
So I just noticed a listing just for a place down in that area by the water, and it gave statistics over the next several years of flooding there, like at Fells, so it said that flood insurance would be absolutely required to buy a place down there. I'm just wondering if you have any thoughts about that, or buying a place close to the water. And I mean, a lot of places won't give you flood insurance.
I think it makes sense. I think that a lot of places that you're buying close to water, beach, whatever, the lender's going to require flood insurance. And so, it's just part of living the life of luxury. If you want to be by the water, you got to pay the price. So
Yeah.
I just think it comes with it. So it's sort of it's a trade-off.
Yeah.
To live there is just gonna cost a little more. But I can see why they might require it. I haven't heard of any flooding or anything like that. I have over there.
Well, it said the last time there was a flood, so probably it said 2001, and then it said over the next 15 years, it gave a percentage. It said like 95% chance that there's going to be a flood there, and then it gave the next period of years, and one of them said 100%, and I said, whoa. I mean,
Was that Cherry, if I may, Greg, was that Cherry Hill or was it Fells Point?
it was Fells. There's
Yeah,
a,
see, Fells Point is in the lowest part of the city. I used
oh,
to
is it
work,
really? Okay.
yeah, I used to work in an office building right there at
Oh,
Harbor
okay.
Point. And literally we would sit on our building and you could look up and see the topography go up like a
Oh,
mountain.
wow.
So
Okay.
Fells is at the lowest point of
Okay.
Baltimore City.
Gotcha.
Of course, sometimes if there's too much rain, they tell us go home, leave the
Yeah.
office. And Caroline Street, Caroline will flood
Yeah.
right down before you even get to
Oh,
Alisana.
wow.
So yeah,
Yeah.
that's a flood prone section.
Okay.
It is certain areas there.
Yeah. Okay. Good to
So
know.
you,
Information
you
I didn't
might
know.
want to look, what about Canton? Does Canton fall in the same category as Fells Point?
Canton is a little higher elevation than Fells. Plus, it's a little further over. So if you move far enough back in Canton, you can see very little of Canton has waterfront housing. The housing is on the other side of Boston Street. So you would have to be where the park is and where the high rises are to get that flooding if you're in Canton. But the way that Canton's built is the housing is on the other side of Boston Street, which is the divider. And that other side is where the housing is, and it's more higher elevation.
Oh,
And,
good to
and
know.
Tony, if
Yeah.
that's a concern of yours, one area that I would highly recommend for you to look at
Mm-hmm.
is Patterson Park,
Okay.
21224. In
Sure.
Patterson Park, you're close to Fells Point, you're close to Canton,
Yeah.
but you're a little further away.
Further away. Yeah.
And because of that, Tony,
Mm-hmm.
the houses are a little cheaper.
Oh, okay.
But you still have like your like bars and restaurants,
Yeah. The
things like
vicinity.
that
Yeah.
but no, right in little delis
Oh, okay.
in Patterson Park,
Okay.
coffee shops in Patterson Park.
Yeah.
And so for you looking around for a nice place for retirement, I would look in, and you want to be close to downtown because you can still walk to
Yeah. Walkable.
areas that you're mentioning from
Yeah.
Patterson Park.
Okay. Thank you. I'll check it out. Good to know.
I would consider that.
Already.
A lot of you guys are interested in multifamily. And I will tell you that as I gave an example earlier, Southeast DC, you can't get into a multifamily for under 600,000. But that's the whole city. Baltimore, you can. And so if you're interested in multifamily, I would steer you to Baltimore, and I would steer you to some of these areas. I do have Harlem Park here, Holland's Market, Pigtown, Upton. They're doing a lot of revitalization and doing a lot of multifamily, like 2 units, 3 units, 4 units, in those areas, and a number of other areas. For multifamily. And so the beauty of Baltimore is that they have the big row houses that can be converted to 2 units, 3 units, depending on whether they're zoned in that area for that, or sometimes some of the houses are grandfathered in to do maybe 3 units. But you're going to buy a property in these areas for honestly little or nothing, especially if you're buying and holding at the auction. Now, if you're buying and holding and you're looking for these properties, one of the places that I would highly recommend is the auctions that I just mentioned. You can find those properties at the auctions. And I just study the auctions. And then I go and drive around those neighborhoods and look at those properties. We take our coaching students. Our coaching students have been to all of these areas. We have found properties in Holland's Market area no, that wasn't the property that you bid on, was it? The one on Holland's Avenue?
No, I didn't do the one on Hollins. I went for the one in Govans. But yeah, Hollins, to your point, some of those are smaller houses, but they're 2-unit houses, and some are a little larger and are 3. And that's an older part of the city, very nice, historic, right at the base of downtown, the hospitals, a lot of opportunity there at Hollins.
Any questions so far, you guys? And
Greg,
so, yeah, go ahead.
I do have one question. When you're talking about AJ Billig, you're talking to those who are looking to flip or to buy and hold. That's not a wholesale opportunity, that type of scenario.
So not just AJ Billick, but any auction, any auction. It's tough for a wholesaler at the auction because these properties, let me just give you a really quick example. So I'm just going to look at maybe these properties right here. And so this is on their website. These houses are on their website, right? So the number one, the whole world has access to these properties. The whole world does, and have access to these properties. When you're looking at Ashland auctions, I mean, this is public information. As opposed to as a wholesaler, when I'm wholesaling, I'm generally the only one, maybe two, people talking to that motivated seller. And then I'm locking it up. I'm putting them under contract. And then I'm looking for a cash buyer to assign that contract to. On an auction property, a cash buyer could be looking at the same property that you're trying to wholesale. So that's number one. And then number two, I have seen it done, but only when the wholesaler has like a direct relationship with the cash buyer. Cash buyer can't show up at the auction on their own, might be out of state, but have studied the property, and the wholesaler kind of acts as their proxy and goes to the auction for them. But when I think of true wholesalers that do, let's say, at least one deal a month, two deals a month, they're not necessarily going to the auctions. They're pulling a list like this and they're calling, or they're sending out postcards, or they're driving for dollars, or they're finding properties. If they're also a real estate agent, they're finding properties on the MLS in their targeted area and they're making offers. That's what the wholesalers are doing. It's difficult wholesaling unless you're acting as a proxy, because for this auction, for example, you've got to bring $3,000. So you've got to have the 3,000. Not this auction, but this auction, you've got to have the 3,000. Actually, for like an Ashland auctions, so for this property right here on Kenwood Avenue, and this is probably in Patterson Park, 21224. For this auction, you've got to bring $15,000 to the auction as a deposit. Same with this one. And so as a wholesaler, if you're not working with a cash buyer on a particular property, then you've got to bring that 15,000. And so now you won the auction, you give them the 15. Now you're under contract. Now you can go wholesale. True wholesalers don't put up any money. If you're wholesaling correctly in the way we teach you, you're not putting up any money to wholesale. You're not putting up the earnest money deposit on the purchase and sales agreement. You're not putting up the earnest money deposit on the assignment agreement. The cash buyer is. And so that's why I kind of steer wholesalers away from auctions unless you're really just acting as a proxy. You know, you've got some cash buyers that maybe work a full-time job, they can't be there, or they're out of state, or they're running, you know, a true investment business. They just can't be there, and they'll pay you a fee for going there. And sometimes you'll go to the auction and you'll see people on the phone. Well, they're on the phone with their cash buyers. They say, okay, the bid just got to 110. What do you want to do? You know, and they're talking. Oh, it just went up to 120. and then they're bringing a cashier's check from that person that they had on the phone, and then it's a one-off. Like you can't do two because that's $30,000. So that's why for wholesalers it's just hard with the auctions. Perfect if you're buying and holding, especially this program right here. If you're buying and holding or fixing and flipping, perfect for that. But as a wholesaler, you've got to put in the work. You've got to make the calls, do the driving for dollars, skip trace, direct mail, all those kinds of things.
Greg, I have a question. I thought I missed something here. What's a good list for the wholesalers?
So that's a good question. So here's a good list. And so you guys can go to I'm gonna say PropWire because it's free. So I would say go to PropWire. I'm gonna write it down myself. PropWire.com, and everybody can go get a list there. It's free of charge. All my coaching students have PropWire. You can pull your list there, and you can skip trace. The skip tracing is either 10 or 15 cents per piece, per contact. I like either a pre-foreclosure list in your geographical location. So let's say, Carlene, you want, since you're in Baltimore, you want a list for Baltimore.
Yes.
So I would go on a PropWire, put in Baltimore, and then put in pre-foreclosures. You might want to put in residential properties.
Yeah.
Maybe 3 bedrooms or more.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So that's
I did that. Yes, I did that. Yes.
That's one list. You actually have a really good list.
Yes.
And then another list would be, my favorite list is out of state absentee owners in a geographic location. Out of state absentee owners is a good list. Now you can put more filters than that: residential, 3 bedrooms or more, and a few other lists. I don't know if Keith wants to chime in on what other filters you can put in, or Alex, but out-of-state absentee owners have worked really, really well for us, and pre-foreclosure lists have worked really, really well for us.
Greg, I know from time to time you mentioned high equity is part of your
high equity, like if they own their house free and clear, or 50% equity. You can pull a list of homeowners in a particular area that has at least 50% equity in their properties.
Another question, Greg. What price am I looking for? Is there a price I should be looking at, or?
Yeah, that's a
that
good
would
question.
be a good deal. Yes.
So another filter would be a value, and so you could put as value for you. I would put $300,000 or less for you.
Okay.
You want property $300,000 or less. And since you're in the coaching program, we can talk more
Hey,
offline.
Greg,
Sure.
can you ask somebody to mute, or everybody to mute, please, because you're breaking up.
I think that's Carlene. It might be Raul.
Somebody else is on the line.
Oh, that's Raul, maybe. Oh, they're gone. Okay. Hopefully that answered your question, Carlene.
Yes.
Okay. So those are the best lists. And I would say, as a wholesaler, your list is everything. You've got a pull list, but you also have to get used to skip tracing, finding phone numbers. You've got to get used to driving for dollars as a wholesaler, looking for vacant and abandoned properties, writing down the addresses, skip tracing to get the homeowner's name and number. And then the other thing is, for wholesalers, with the marketing, the key to your success, two things. Number one is follow up, and number two is consistency. You've got to be consistent. If you are not consistent, if you are not following up, if you're not time blocking for your marketing, you're not going to be successful. That's just the bottom line as a wholesaler. Now, if you're fixing and flipping and buying and holding, honestly, oftentimes we're waiting for the wholesalers to bring us deals. We're doing a little bit of marketing, but primarily the wholesaler's job is to find off-market deals or deals off the MLS that's been on the MLS, I'll say for 30 or more days that fit, a certain criteria. And then now we're making offers. And until we get one. That's what wholesalers need to do. So as a case study, and I've got a lot of case study. This is one right here. I think Tammy is going through one where eventually we'll be able to do a case study where she bought a property. And she's on, I don't know if she wants to chime in, but she's bought a property for say, I think like $3,000. She's gone through the program. She's in my coaching program. And she'll have a case study where she'll be able to tell the story of how she bought the property, got it fully renovated as a 2-unit, rented them out. I'm starting a program where I am finding these properties and selling them turnkey to investors that want 2 units that don't have the wherewithal or time to find these properties, to renovate these properties, and helping with the financing. I talked to a lender today that will finance you, and you don't have to bring any money to the table. They'll finance you. You do have to bring like some closing costs to the table, but they'll finance 100% of the acquisition, 100% of the rehab, and you're just bringing like title charges to the table.
That's outstanding. It's outstanding.
Now, there's a certain criteria, and I want you guys to listen to this because there's solutions for everything. Now, two of the biggest criterias are you've got to have a 700 credit score or over, and they want you to have past performance of 5 properties. They want you to be able to show 5 properties in the last 5 years. Now, so here's the thing. You may or may not have that past performance, and most of you guys don't, but there's some of us that do. And so let's say that Valerie is interested in a particular property. She wants that financing because she's bringing little to no money to the table, and now she's able to flip a property. Valerie and I can form an LLC, and as long as I own less than 20% of the LLC, so an operating agreement, Valerie LLC will own 80%, Benedictine Properties owns 20%. We can use my past performance, my 5 properties, in order to qualify. And let's just say, for example, she doesn't have the 700 credit score. We can either use my credit score or we put somebody else on the LLC and use their credit score, their credit. And we can all have one LLC. And then how we distribute the money in the end is of no concern to the lender. That's just qualifying. And so I talked to a lender today about that. I have a follow-up meeting with him on Wednesday. And so I say all that to say there's ways to get these properties done, and there are solutions. And so when we talk about financing, there's lenders like that. Now, it's a hard money lender. And he said that their terms are pretty in line with all the other hard money lenders. He said between 10 and 12% interest, which probably means 12% interest and 3 points, but that's what they're all charging. They're all charging 12 and 3 right now. But to be able to acquire one of these properties and bring like literally little to no money to the table, honestly, is a godsend. Like you're just, bringing a couple $1,000s to the table. And now you've bought a property well below market. The lender, this particular lender, is financing everything. Don't worry about past performance because, like I said, if you don't have it, I have it, other people have it, you can put on the LLC. You still own it, you own 80%. And then I will mentor you throughout the whole process, through getting the plans, permits, contractor, stager, everything. And so just keep that in mind. If you guys find a property, and there's other hard money lenders, my coaching students in Baltimore use Pimlico. In DC and Prince George's County, I use commercial lending and get probably better rates than those, but I've been with commercial lending. I can introduce you guys to them. There's also private lenders. There's grant programs that Baltimore City has. We already talked about the Burr method. So honestly, you guys, it's really just about finding the deals and putting forth the effort to find the deals, and getting them financed doesn't necessarily have to be a challenge. We can all work together. And I always think, and that's why I put my coaching students in accountability groups, that we're stronger together. We have a big, nice sized group, but even in the smaller groups, they're investing together because they're stronger together. They use each other's resources to finance these deals, find the deals, finance these deals. There's real estate agents in each accountability group that can look up properties on the MLS, pull comps. There's people that have past performance, maybe not 5 properties, and that's just that one lender. And the lenders that we use, they do ask for past performance, but if you don't have it, they just charge you a higher interest. They make you put more money down. But then again, if you put somebody on the LLC that has the past performance, you get better rates. And most of the hard money lenders are honestly only looking for, I don't know, maybe I'll say 680 credit score with a little, but if you have a lot of past performance, they'll take a lower credit score. Any questions about the financing?
Greg, you said the 700 credit score and 12% interest, and that 12% interest, that's paid monthly?
No, good question. That's a good question, Cynthia. So in their program, the monthly interest-only payments are deferred. So you're not making any monthly payments. In that particular lender's program, no monthly payments.
And that's acquisition. They'll pay for acquisition and renovation?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Thank you.
So
Call
monthly
you tomorrow.
payments are deferred until completion, until it's ready to be put on the market.
Until settlement. Once you close on the deal, you pay the interest.
Gotcha.
You pay the rest. So it's points involved. So it's 3 points that you pay up front. So 3 points is 3% of the loan you pay up front, and then 12% for the life of the loan, which means, so it's 12% that's annualized, meaning if you keep the loan for a year, it's 12%. If you keep the loan for 6 months, it's half the time, so it's 6%. And so Gwen, I haven't received any grant money. I don't know if anybody on the call has received any grant money. Yeah, you don't have to be a realtor to be in the program. All right, any questions about money? Any questions about money? So look, you guys, so this is about building wealth and not putting any hurdles in the way of building wealth. It's about learning the process, honestly, being in a community that's going to help you learn the process, because you can't do all of what I just talked about. You cannot do it by yourself. You're going to make a lot of mistakes and lose a lot of money. It's hard to do what I just talked about and build wealth, you know, just going to these webinars, looking at YouTube, reading books. It's very difficult. It's a lot easier being part of a community of investors that's investing on a daily basis. And we're investing on a daily basis. And so we can help all along the way. Every step of the way, we can help. And we can help, honestly, in a big way. Are there risks? There's risk involved. There's risk in underestimating repair costs. We try to do a great job with working with the same contractors, getting detailed contracts. There's risk overpaying for properties. That's the number one mistake that investors make. And so we run formulas all day long to make sure that we're not overpaying. As a matter of fact, you should be underpaying. So we're you know, this webinar is about Baltimore. You should be underpaying in Baltimore. You do expect there are unexpected delays as part of the process, but you try to help see that process through. One thing that's going to help see it through is if you're renovating a property and you cannot be there every day, every other day, you have to hire a project manager to help manage that project for you. And we have project managers that can, you know, be there every other day, that can manage the project for you, manage the contractors. One thing that I hate doing is I showed up to one of my projects today and it just made me feel good that my contractors were there. I show up to other people's projects and nobody's there. And it's like time is money. And so with a project manager, you can, you know, they know. And if the contractor, if they know that you're not going to be there, then they're going to be slow about showing up. And so that's the importance of a project manager. Other risks in Baltimore are like the one young lady was talking about, just being nervous about buying on the street with board ups. I'm a huge advocate on that, but just making sure that there's other renovations all around you, on the street, on the block. That house I told you guys about that I bought for $8,000 and I gave it to Ashland Auctions. I cleaned it up, gave it to Ashland Auctions to auction off. It was on Harlem Avenue. I asked the guy, young guy, I said, at settlement, I said, why did you buy the property? And guess what he told me? He said, right next door, they were doing renovations. Right across the street, they were doing renovations. A buddy of mine was doing a renovation a couple doors down. They were revitalizing the street. And I said, shoot, I'm going to jump in and buy this property. Now, I felt like I had egg on my face because I should have kept that property and renovated that property. I didn't see what he saw. Now, I made some money on that, but that's the kind of vision that you have to. But that's part of the risk of Baltimore is you just want to make sure that they're renovating properties all around you. And even if they're not, I want you to put forth some effort to try to honestly learn how to skip trace and get phone numbers of people on the same street and see if they're interested in selling, because at the very least you can get a wholesale fee. You may not want to buy it. Hopefully you will, but if not, maybe I'll buy it, or Valerie will buy it, or Alex will buy it. Somebody's going to buy it. All right, why now is the time to invest in Baltimore? Increasing demand from renters and home buyers, city incentives for investors and first-time home buyers, lots of first-time home buyer programs, growing job market and development projects, lots of projects going around the city. There's a major is it called Westport in Baltimore, Alex? Over in South, what is that called?
No, that's the Baltimore Peninsula, which is opposite of the Westport waterfront. Westport waterfront was what they were going to do. It shifted over to the Baltimore Peninsula, which is built, and they're still building houses and apartments.
Yeah, yeah. And there's just a lot of opportunity there compared to what's going on nationally, compared to what's going on in DC. And so I say all this to say, I still invest in DC. I still invest in Prince George's County where I live. I've got properties in Annapolis, but I also invest in Baltimore. And I'd like for you guys just to take a look at it. The key to your success, you guys, as I may have or may not have said already, is you've got to take action. And you've got to take action consistently. And that's where you'll get your success. This investing in real estate is not easy. It's not. I don't want to make it seem like it's easy. It takes work. But if you have a passion for living a better life, if you have a passion for building wealth for yourself and for your family, if you have a passion for leaving a legacy and living up to your fullest potential, I want you to jump in and know that, you've got people around you, my coaching program, that's going to help you all along the way. So you have questions about anything? Well, first of all, are there any questions? I think I saw some questions in the chat. Let me see. Maybe not. Looks like James has answered some questions. With hard money lender during the renovation, how is the repair money distributed? Yeah, I generally take, so James is right, there's a draw schedule. I normally take, depending on the scope of work and the budget, I'll take 3 draws. So he's right about that. I think all the questions in the chat are answered. Any questions, you guys? Any questions?
Is this available to listen to later? I know you recorded it. Is there any way to access it again just to listen to it on my own, or?
Yeah. We'll either send it out or probably by tomorrow afternoon it'll be on my YouTube channel.
Okay, great.
It'll be on my YouTube channel.
Okay, great.
Greg,
But Tony, you don't need to listen to it again. You just need to buy in Patterson Park.
No, I was trying to get another friend of mine to listen, dial in or sign up, but he didn't get a chance to. So I wanted to play it for him to get the full flavor.
Yeah, we have it. We'll either email it out to everybody.
Okay.
It'll definitely be on my YouTube channel.
Okay. Very good. Thanks.
Greg,
Also, go ahead.
I've been listening to your workshops and participating for many, many years, and I have been a lone wolf, admittedly, in my investment pursuits, mostly in Prince George's County and the DMV. But having had my first experience in Baltimore, I cannot emphasize enough your advice as to being a part of a group. I have been officially burned, and I feel very humiliated, but yet compelled to really encourage you to listen to the sage wisdom of these workshops around not going in this alone, Baltimore is a totally different beast, I've found out, and just navigating the system and just, the property, real estate there is a lot different than the DMV. And I really regret not having partnered. So I just want to corroborate everything that you're saying. And thank you for, your continued contributions to the real estate community.
Well, thank you for your honesty and your vulnerability and not giving up, because oftentimes people have a bad experience and they give up. And so I want to introduce you guys to a couple of things really quickly if you have time. We do have a coaching program that will hold your hand. It's a $5,000 coaching program. We've discounted it until Monday, until the end of the month. It's $29.97 or 2 payments of $17.50. Come Tuesday, April 1st, it goes back up. It's a 12-week program, and so we're out in the field. So we learn during the week, every Tuesday and Wednesday. We have classes, live classes virtually. At 8 o'clock, I get on a call with the coaching students. We go over what they've done, what they've accomplished. We're writing contracts, we're closing deals. I'll teach something, one of these things, but all these are recorded and they're in the, I've got about, I don't know, 35 videos in their membership site. So I will teach a Mayo class or a contracts class, but also they can go back to their membership site and get the recording. So we're out in the field a lot. I say twice a month, once a month really, but we do twice a month, sometimes once a week. I met with a couple of the students, I think it was Monday. I get my Monday or Tuesday, I get my days mixed up. We give you lists. So this right here is actually a predictive data list, an AI generated list that we actually give our students. So we talked about different lists. This list tracks about 30 different data points for people. This is a Prince George's County list of people that should be selling their houses in the next 30, 60, 90 days. And we start our coaching students off with that list. You get access to my toolkit that has all the scripts, documents, contracts, marketing materials, and more in there. You get appointed to an accountability. I put partner, but it's really a group. And it's a group of investors that meet separately at least once a week. Some of our groups actually go out in the field, seems like every week now, to find properties, to write contracts. The key to what we try to do is write contracts. Investor services, we help vet every deal. I try to go to every deal that our coaching students are buying. I help do the numbers, write the contracts, negotiate, all those kinds of things. Unlimited one-on-ones and access to deals. We try to do deals together. So if you're interested in our coaching program, Keith, can you put in the chat BBC Platinum? You can just go to bbcplatinum.com and you can sign up for our coaching program. It's discounted until Tuesday, well, Monday, the 31st. If you want to schedule a one-on-one with me to talk about our coaching program, you can go to gbschedule.com and to meet with me one-on-one, gbschedule.com. I'll put that in here real quick, gbschedule. And I'm happy to sit down with you guys, gbschedule.com, one-on-one. I think I sent it. Keith, put GB schedule in here too. I think I sent that to the wrong.
Greg, make mention about the shadow or the home tours that you have for our students.
Yeah, I mentioned. So we are out in the field, you guys. It seems like every other week. Every other week we're out in the field, and then we do have a free event. Some of you guys have been to my 4-day course. And so we have another 4-day course coming up April the 7th. It's free. It's at 8 o'clock, Monday through Thursday. You can go to BBC 4-Day. I think that's on here. Yeah, BBC 4-Day to sign up. That's free. But all in all, I do think that Baltimore is a great option for us. I think that we should take a look at it. I want us to be ahead of the curve when it comes to Baltimore. I don't want Baltimore. We'll look up, 3 or 4 or 5 years from now. And I know people have said this in the past about Baltimore, and the prices are just astronomical. And I've seen it for myself. I have properties that really have appraised in value. And so, but wherever you invest, make sure that you've got a coach or a mentor or somebody helping you so that you don't make those mistakes, that you do make money. And again, it takes a lot of work. And so I want to thank Alex for helping out here.
Hey, Greg, real quick, Sharon has a question, wants to know, does our coaching 12-week course go in cycles, or can people jump in at any time?
Yeah, you can jump in at any time, Sharon. You can jump in at any time. Go ahead, Cammie.
I just had a quick testimony I wanted to share. Yeah, I joined the program about 10 days ago, and I wanted you to see my face. And Greg has been awesome. So I had a property that I bought back in October, and Greg has come out twice in 10 days and looked at the property. And I've had like 3 one-on-ones with him. And now we're working on trying to get me a contractor because I live out of state, and also possibly a property manager. So I never could have imagined that I would have this much help in less than 2 weeks. So I'm excited. I'm excited for the process of, and this is going to be a triplex. I bought it. It's a very broken down, vacant, can't even walk through it property. But in less than a year, I'm going to have a triplex with tenants. So
yes.
Thanks,
Yes.
Greg. Thank you, Keith.
Congratulations, Cammie.
I'm excited.
That's wonderful. Congratulations.
Excellent, Cammie. Excellent.
Congratulations, Cam. That's great.
Was that Dana? Dana, you on here?
Yes.
Oh, Dana snuck in here, Dana.
I've been here the whole time.
Oh, okay.
This one is on a hill.
You beat
Don't
me.
talk about my partner.
Beat me to it, Cammie. You beat me to it.
Don't talk about my partner.
All right. Anybody else? Any questions, comments? We love you, Dana.
I appreciate that.
Cam is a superstar. Don't forget, Cam, you owe me $2.
If anybody's on the
I got
fence,
you.
I usually chime in around this time because Greg never mentions that what he's offering is an investment. I mean, we're investors, and what he is offering is the opportunity to invest in starting your investment or furthering your investment endeavors and hopes and dreams. It's not a cost because you're getting something out of it, which describes and defines what an investment is. And what you're getting out of it is a wealth of knowledge, a community of different people with different backgrounds in investing, plenty of collateral online in the toolkits. As you can see, you got webinars Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I think Friday is the only day we don't have webinars. We go out in the field. We are able to interact with one another, exchange information, and continuously learning. So if anybody's on the fence about, the dollar amount, the few thousands of dollars, consider yourself in a really great position to increase getting that back exponentially if you join the group.
Thank you. Thank you, Valerie.
Thank you, Valerie.
Thank you, Valerie.
You're always so helpful.
Let me just say, mine has been exponential for sure. My return has been outstanding.
Well, thank you, Dana. Dana's been with us for, is it 3 years now, Dana?
Yes, around that.
Okay. And Dana's done extremely well.
It's been a great ride, Greg.
Dana's can't come in, and when I first laid eyes on Dana, I said, boy, that boy's not gonna make it. That poor thing. He is not gonna make it. And Dana, he came in and we got him right. We fixed him up, took that liquor away from him, and he's never been the same. I'm joking, Dana. You know I'm joking with you.
Wow.
Hey, Greg,
good.
there are a couple of
That's
questions
good.
that
Go ahead.
I was saying there are a few questions in the chat. You got one that says, with the hard money lender doing the renovations, how is the repair money distributed? That's one question.
Okay. Yeah, I think we answered that. So it's a draw schedule. And so you set up a draw schedule, or we can help you with the draw schedule. The lender will approve that draw schedule. The initial things in the rehab go in the first draw, then second, third. And as the work gets done, the lender will check on everything that's in the first draw, or some lenders will just say, send me pictures. And then once they approve it, then they will send you the money for the first draw. And then you start working on the second draw. And once all the work that is done in the second draw, they approve the second draw and they send you the money. And then once the house is completely finished, some wait until you have a use and occupancy permit, then they'll send you the final draw. Some wait until the house is, if you're flipping it, house is on the MLS, they see it's on the MLS, they give you the final draw. Which means that you do have to have a little bit of money up front to get your contractor started with the first draw, because you're not going to get the money for the first draw until the work in the first draw is completed. That's most lenders.
And Greg, another question that was in the chat says, how can we partner if we don't meet the 5 property requirement, but have the credit?
And so like I said earlier, we can set up an LLC. And in that LLC, someone like me can be a part of the LLC and own less than 20%. And we can use my past performance. And that was just that one lender. Most of the lenders, some lenders, you don't need any past performance. Some will want 1 or 2. It's just that one program that I was talking about, that you come to the table with little to no money. They require 5 properties. And but if I'm mentoring you anyway, I can be on the LLC, maybe not me. We've got like Dana's had 5 properties in the last, I think it's 5 years, 3 or 5 years. Dana can be, and then we just have to show our settlement statements. And as long as we own less than 20% of the LLC, we don't show credit or anything, but you can use our past performance. You can use the LLC's past performance because I'm part of the LLC. And again, that's just that one hard money lender, but they do have the best terms. But the other ones that we use, I mean, everybody's looking at past performance. But what we're going to try to do in our group is, when we close, we just had someone that closed, but when we close, put each other on the settlement statement in some form or fashion so that they can have past performance. All right. Did I miss anything else? You guys ready to go? You guys ready to find some properties and start making some money with no hurdles, no excuses? All we've got to do is take action. Go ahead, Ms. Thomas.
I just have one question. I'm sorry if you may have covered this previously in the call, but I'm not familiar with the Baltimore area. I lived in Maryland, Southern Maryland, PG County, and I just recently moved from Virginia. I'm in Buffalo right now, but I do want to learn more about Baltimore as from a real estate standpoint. So my question is, do you have to be part of the Platinum coaching program to go through those steps that you mentioned, or to be a part of the partnership?
That would be my preference.
Okay.
That would be my preference, only because, but we can talk. If you found a deal, we can talk. I just know that my coaching students have been trained, and they know numbers and they know how to find the deals, and so they've gone through a training process with me. So my preference is for it to be just for my coaching students. But if you have a deal, we'll take a look at it, and I might be happy to partner with you.
Oh yeah, it's definitely my preference as well. It's just about timing. And thank you for answering the question that it's a rolling enrollment. So do you wait until you have a cohort to start the next class when you say you can join at any time?
You said wait until you have what?
I said when you answers to the question, you said you can enroll in the Platinum coaching program at any time.
Yeah.
So do you wait until you have a set number of students to start a cohort, or do the
No,
individuals
you can
just
start
jump in?
now. No, you can just
Okay.
start now.
Yeah, it's just about timing for me, that's all. But that's my preference as well. But I
That-
still want to be a part, just to observe where I can until I'm able.
Okay, we'll be here when you're ready.
Okay, thank you so much.
Until then, we have a number of things that you can attend. Like
Mhm.
webinars like this, our 4-day course. And then if you find a property, just schedule one-on-one with me.
Okay. And do you do any deals outside of the Baltimore area? And I'm only asking, I'm in Buffalo, New York. I'm originally from Buffalo. I lived in the DMV area for over 20 years, but I love the DMV area, but I'll say that for another day. I'm saying that because there is a lot of revitalization happening here. And as you know, the top shooting occurred here. So there's a lot of funding in regards to rebuilding that area. So that's why I had asked if you do any deals outside of Baltimore.
Not really, because I
Okay.
want to be involved. I want to put my eyes on the property. I do have a colleague. If you find something, I have a really good close colleague in Buffalo.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
Born and raised in Buffalo.
Mhm.
He actually does a lot of investing in Buffalo.
Okay.
So just contact me if you find something.
Okay, I will. I'm going to attend. They're having a function, the National Association of Real Estate. I know it's NARED. I forgot the last name, but they're having an event. I think later in April. So that's why I was asking. But yeah, I'm very interested in Baltimore. If I was staying in the DMV area, I was looking at moving further up that way. So I'm not familiar with the geographical area. I have a friend, she lives in Middle River. I have a friend in Glen Burnie. But as far as the city, I went to Felts Point to see the fireworks. And that was a good point. I learned about geography. Thank you. Knowing that's the lowest point in flood area. I was like, it's beautiful down here where the domino factory is. So thank you. Baltimore reminds me of Buffalo, just some of the architecture.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. All right, you guys, time to wrap up. Let's hey, it's up to your financial future. I know all of you guys have goals. I think real estate is a great way for you to achieve your financial goals. Let us help you get there. Again, I'd like to thank Alex and everyone who's participated. Again, Baltimore is a great opportunity. It's not the only opportunity, but it is a great opportunity. All right, you guys, take care. God bless. And I will talk to you guys soon. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you.